Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. If you live on the Twitters like I do, you may have noticed in your Twitter feed, if you follow XRP and people that are in the XRP community, you may have noticed people talking about a new cryptocurrency called Saga, which admittedly I just found out about yesterday, and it is brand new. But there's a concern about it, particularly taking the place of what XRP is doing. And I just don't share that concern. So I want to run through the specifics. I've got an interesting Twitter thread from an XRP community member who is the one that tagged me, so that's how I found out about this in the first place. So I think it's going to be a great critical thinking exercise. I'm going to share with you my perspective. If you think I miss anything, look, I'm always learning too. Feel free to drop something in the comments below. But I'm going to make a case against it as best I can here. And other than that, there's an interesting article from AMB Crypto, and it's titled "Binance's CZ claims blockchain will be huge in the future." So interesting take there. Of course, anytime we hear about long-term stuff from people that are really ingrained in the just the world of crypto and blockchain industry, it's typically an interesting find. But before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you are a fan of Ripple and XRP, get down with your best self and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. Be part of here already. So I'll just tell you where this came from first. I got tagged in a tweet from All the Way 08, XRP community member here, and it was a retweet of a video that Sam I Am to the Lifeboats on the XRP community member, fellow XRP YouTuber. It was a link to that video he put out yesterday on Saga. So this is the first I had heard of it, period. And so again, I'm still learning, but I've taken in a reasonable amount of knowledge given how new this information is. And I did watch Sam's video on this, and I'm not just going to rehash everything that he covered. He went into it fairly in depth for like the first 8 minutes of this video. So if you want to go check it out, it's interesting. And then he spent the remaining like 5 minutes or so talking about XRP and, is this a threat to XRP? And I tend to agree with the strong majority of what Sam had to say in the video. I don't think that it's a threat to XRP. I think they're doing a completely different thing there. So rather than go through as Sam did, since that's I think he did a fine job with that, I'm just going to give you a synopsis, since you may not have heard of this either. And this piece was from PR Newswire, titled "The First Global Stabilized Digital Currency Controlled by Its Holders, Saga Lists on Global Cryptocurrency Exchange Liquid." And I just want to cover the top part of this right here so you can understand what it is. SGA is the first global stabilized digital currency controlled by its holders and will allow global citizens to store and move value without friction across borders. It complements existing national currencies and offers a store of value outside the remit of national government and banking structures. Right, in order for SGA to serve as a global currency, it is fully backed by a strong basket of national currencies that replicate the International Monetary Fund's SDR. Based on the SGA's market movements, measured by the number of tokens issued, the Saga monetary model will gradually diminish reliance on the reserve as users' confidence in SGA grows. Together, these measures are designed and implemented to reduce price volatility while allowing SGA to grow beyond a simple fiat-backed / pegged stablecoin. So if you're like me, as soon as you heard that, you thought, oh, that sounds just like Libra, right? Strikingly similar. If you thought that, then you and I are starting on the same page there. It's not decentralized, whatever this thing is. And then this was fascinating too. SGA is the first global stabilized digital currency controlled by its holders. What makes it global at this point? What I'd have to I want to parse those words. What do they mean by global exactly? Because it's certainly not adopted globally. This thing's brand new here and controlled by its holders. Well, look, this thing's backed by a basket of fiat currencies, and so its value is not derived on an open market. It's derived by whatever fiat currencies underlie it. That's it. So really, frankly, that makes this cryptocurrency a liability more so than an asset, doesn't it? And so, anyway, all the way 08, let's hop into this so I can share with you some of my thoughts on this. So all the way 08, again, he's the one, and shout out to you, good sir, I hope you're listening to this. All the way 08, I think he's a rather insightful individual, and he's written some stuff up on his blog in the past, and I've covered a couple of the things that he's written, and I just think he has interesting takes on stuff. Now, I will say, and I'm going to share with you the tweets that he wrote last night, I do have a different opinion than him on this. But of course, I love hearing opinions from other people, and I love it when people disagree with me, because to me, as long as we're all adults, there can be reasonable discourse here. And so that's always where I'm coming from. Like, no matter what I'm talking about, that's where I'm coming from. And so, all the way 08 tweeted, hashtag XRP community, this is definitely worth discussing. Sam was on this thing fast, and then tagged me. And again, that was a tweet that was a retweet of Sam I Am's original video. And so I responded after watching Sam's video, and I wrote, things like this are always interesting, though I have to say, it just sounds like another centralized walled garden. At the heart of the issue of cross-border settlement is trust, and a project set up in this way doesn't address that. They aren't going the same path as Ripple. And so all the way 08 responded. I want to share with you his thoughts, and then I may just interject like my thoughts along the way here, but he had 3 tweets here. And so he wrote, I see stablecoins as a threat to traditional crypto assets because they were born as a result of the extreme volatility of crypto. Here I see a Libra-like project that is centralized, that is going after the friction of cross-border payments. Let me stop right there. And so here's the way that I look at this. I certainly agree that it's a Libra-like project for sure. That's one of the first things that I thought, I first watched Sam's video, I was like, oh yeah, it does sound like Libra. And then I read more about it, I was like, okay, yeah, this really sounds in many ways like Libra. But as far as this stablecoins being born out of like the threat to that traditional crypto assets made, and the extreme volatility of them, well, okay, but as far as it going after the friction of cross-border payments, that doesn't just happen. Like, I understand that, and how do I want to word this? It's like I'm sorry, my brain is just like, I'm trying to get my mouth words to catch up with my brain here. Sometimes my brain's moving in too many directions. Look, as far as the friction of cross-border payments, here's the thing. I remember what I want to say. Technically, if you want to leapfrog over Ripple's technology, which even the portion that utilizes XRP as a bridge currency, you could do that today. Technically, you could do it. You don't need to have all these middlemen. You don't need to use remittance companies. You could, if you wanted, just send XRP yourself and then convert it into a local fiat currency. Like, you could actually do it now. You could use Bitcoin to do that. Now, of course, Bitcoin's slower and more costly, but you could use Bitcoin for that too. And so that's why these Bitcoin maxis out there that do see, they buy into this concept of Bitcoin being the one world currency, that's many of them. That is what they think. They're like, well, you can just use Bitcoin for everything. It's going to beat out all the fiat currencies, and many of them are maximalists, and they say all the other cryptocurrencies are going to go away. It's just Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. But retail investors, like everybody that's a speculator right now that holds Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, almost 100% of that volume is pure speculation. Understand, there are true hurdles to replacing fiat currency with any cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or XRP or whatever. There's an adoption curve that's really, really going to take time, and that's why I've made the point in the past that as far as the adoption of any cryptocurrency in place of fiat currency, that was the first use case that was envisioned for any cryptocurrency. It may be, interestingly enough, the last use case that's ever actually adopted, because it's going to take a long time. So in the meantime, you can utilize XRP as a bridge currency to help convert from one fiat currency to another, to help move money around more efficiently. And so when you're talking about the friction of cross-border payments, here's the other part of this. Saga, they're trying to be a one world currency, essentially. That's what it sounds like, right? Well, here's the thing. As it pertains to XRP being used as a bridge currency, that doesn't just happen by dumb luck. Understand that Ripple's been working on this for the better part of a decade, building out this whole ecosystem, right? And so even if you're going to use Saga, who's going to do that? Who's actually going to do that? Tell me, no, literally, who's going to build out a company that's going to develop the software that does the messaging portion for payments, and then as far as utilization of the Saga coin for the settlement portion, well, you couldn't even do that right now because you'd have too much friction because. Frankly, because it's the same problem that you have with traditional banking. Frankly, do you realize that it's the same problem that you have with traditional banking, which is the issue of trust. And if you're using a cryptocurrency like Saga, which is backed by a basket of fiat currencies, you're not actually solving that problem. I mean, what are you going to do? Put literally every single fiat currency in there on the planet, and then how do you value that? Because the thing is, it's the same problem. Which I'm thinking about making a video about this. It's the same problem of the concept of having a gold backed by XRP. Gold has, for instance, gold has a market value. XRP has a market value. What do you mean XRP backed by gold? I've read through multiple people that have written articles about this, and none of it makes a damn bit of sense. And so you could have Saga backed by different fiat currencies, so having it, perhaps, does that mean it has a different value in different markets, things along that lines? And if so, again, you're just recreating the friction that exists today, but with newer technology. It just doesn't work. So then all the way away also wrote, if it became adopted enough, the trust issue kind of goes away. If enough entities hold it on a global scale, it would gain trust. What I think is odd about this project is that supposedly the holders gain voting rights in its ecosystem. That could be a potential problem for it. It's an interesting one. And so I have a different opinion on that too. So on the idea of the trust issues going away if there's enough adoption. Well, that's the thing there too. Why would that ever happen? To understand, if you're talking about I guess concerns and motives from a geopolitical perspective, different nations are going to have different motives. And that's always going to be the case. That's not just going to go away. Bitcoin already tried to do the one world currency thing. How'd that work out? You got thousands. All they did is they replicated the same problem that already existed. You've got thousands of cryptocurrencies now with siloed value just the world over. And so I just don't see that happening, plain and simple. I just, if there's more to that perspective, I'd be interested in hearing it. I just simply, absolutely do not see that happening. That's why I just don't subscribe to the one world currency to roll. Not that all the way away to saying that specifically, but just as far as the trust issue. But even then, it's not positioned to be used as a bridge currency. XRP is, and so once that happens, if it can effectively do the same, even if there weren't those hurdles, what would be the motive to make a lateral switch at that point? Well, there isn't one, right? And so anyway, he did write in the end, though, here's the third tweet. It probably fizzles out, but I think we are going to be seeing more and more stablecoin projects popping up that are collateralized by different assets or currencies. And so, I love the critical thinking on this, and I love to have the back and forth. So I hope that he's watching, because I'd love to hear any feedback on my initial thoughts on this. Because, I'm always evolving the way that I'm looking at this stuff. As new information is presented to me, or new perspectives that maybe I didn't consider. But that's pretty much where I'm at on it now. And if you take a look at this is a tweet, not a tweet. This is a post from Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple CEO, on August 24th of 2016, titled "The Case Against Bitcoin." And I'd like to run through this real quick. Because it kind of makes the case as to why a Saga, or look, any bank coin, anything that's centralized, I think this illustrates why it's a problem. So UBS, Deutsche Bank, Santander, and BNY Mellon announced their utility settlement coin, a new digital asset they hope will become the industry standard for blockchain settlements. They expect banks will initially use the coin for post-trade settlement and clearing by early 2018, after they secure blessing from regulators and central banks. While this development signals a significant market traction from an institutional use of digital assets, I have to say it's deeply misguided. A bank-issued digital asset can only really efficiently settle between the banks who issued it. Then, two scenarios can play out. And the reason that's key, why can they only settle between two banks? Because the only way to efficiently settle between two banks is if you have an existing relationship with a pre-funded account. Or even if you don't have a pre-funded account without the existing relationship, you're just recreating the same friction. So check this out. So he wrote this. 2 scenarios can play out. Scenario 1, all banks around the world put aside competitive and geopolitical differences, adopt the same digital asset, agree on its rules, and harmoniously govern its usage. Fat chance. And there you go. And so that's the sentiment that I was trying to articulate just a couple minutes ago in this video. Fat chance of everybody just agreeing on everything. That's not how humans work. And nations the world over have different motives. Scenario 2, and then he writes the more likely scenario, banks not in the issuing group issue their own digital assets with their own sets of rules and governance. And then he points out that we're already kind of seeing this today with Citi's Citicoin and Goldman Sachs Settlecoin. The result would be an even more fragmented currency landscape than we have today. If banks of different digital asset groups want to settle trades with one another, they'll have to make markets between their unique digital assets or trade between their digital assets and a common fiat currency. What a mess. The second big problem with the utility settlement coin is it seems it'll be backed by a basket of currencies. What's that sound like? It sounds like Libra and it sounds like Saga, doesn't it? Once backed by cash, it's no longer an asset, it's a liability. Trading liabilities then ultimately requires moving cash across borders, recreating today's system, but adding more friction. We strongly believe banks need an independent digital asset to enable truly efficient settlement, and we believe XRP is best positioned for that role. It goes back to the fundamentals of what makes scrolled up and I lost my slide. But it goes back to the fundamentals of what makes digital assets unique and special. They're universal currencies, meaning anyone can use them as units of value anywhere in the world. That universality gives digital assets global reach and the ability to settle much faster than traditional assets. Compared head-to-head with other independent digital assets like Bitcoin or Ether, XRP settles the most efficiently cross-border in just seconds. In fact, we've run tests with the global banks to prove XRP can lower liquidity costs for cross-border trades. More to come on that front. And of course, we're in the future, so we know what's coming. It's all good stuff, right? All right, next, here's an article from AMB Crypto. Binance's CZ claims blockchain will be huge in the future. I'm so sorry, guys. Excuse me. Kind of getting over a cold here. Let me just jump into this part down here. I think this is where we go. Yeah, actually, I just want to cover this part down here. So CG addressed a current market situation, stating that he believes that we would have to acknowledge the fact that the industry has witnessed immense growth over the years. The price of Bitcoin was a mere $200 a few years ago, and now it's trading at almost $8,000. Irrespective of the price, when viewed from a technological point of view, the underlying tech that Bitcoin works on has been widely adopted, and more countries will be adopting it in the years from now. And CZ added, quote, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years later, blockchain will be huge. Production will be everywhere. So I'm not worried about the market at all or the long-term outlook of the market. So that's why we in this industry spend so much effort building stuff. And so I just wanted to highlight that real briefly just to kind of point out, and I kind of made this point in another video today, which is why I didn't want to harp on it too much, but it's just the concept of crypto assets are absolutely here to stay because you can do things with them that you couldn't if they did not exist, and businesses can exist that otherwise wouldn't be able to. XRP, my friends. But that's it for this video. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.